I trusted you, Leo. Why did you do this to me?
She tested him to see if he was real, but the moment she finally became real with him, he became the one who wasn't. This is a story about Zara, a woman who had everything money could buy, except the one thing she desperately wanted: trust, real love, the kind that stays when the bank account runs dry. But what happens when you test love so much that you kill it? And what happens when the person you finally open your heart to uses that openness to destroy you? Stay with me, because this story will break your heart before it teaches you the hardest lesson about love. Zara sat in her penthouse apartment, looking out at the city lights below, 28 years old. Beautiful, successful, rich beyond most people's dreams. But inside, she felt like the loneliest person in the world. She had been hurt before, 3 times to be exact. And the first man loved her until he saw her black card. Then suddenly, he had business ideas that needed funding. The second man loved her until he didn't. He left the moment he realized she wasn't actually rich, that she had been hiding her wealth to test him. He called her a liar and walked away. The third man stayed even after knowing about her money, but Zara later found messages on his phone to his friends saying, "I'm set for life, boys. Just need to put a ring on it." That one hurt the most. So Zara built walls, thick ones. She decided that if anyone was going to love her, they would have to love her for who she was, not what she had. But how do you test that? How do you know for sure? Her best friend Maya had an answer. They sat at a small cafe one afternoon, meaning the kind of place Zara chose specifically because it was far from her usual 5-star restaurants. Maya sipped her coffee and said, "Look, Zara, you need to face the truth. Most men out here only want money. They see a successful woman, and they see an opportunity. If you really want to find real love, you have to hide who you are. Pretend you're just managing like everyone else, struggling even. Then you'll see who stays." Zara listened carefully. It made sense to her broken heart. "But what if he finds out I lied?" she asked. Maya shrugged. "Then you'll know if he loved you or the idea of you. Either way, you get your answer." Zara nodded slowly. She hated the idea of lying, but she hated being used even more, so she made a decision. She would hide her wealth. She would dress simply. And she would live below her means in front of whoever she dated next, and she would test them. Test their patience, test their loyalty, test their love. Only then would she know if it was real. That's when she met Leo. He worked at a tech startup downtown. Hardworking, charming, the kind of smile that made you feel safe. They met at a friend's birthday party. Nothing fancy, just people laughing and dancing in someone's average apartment. Leo didn't know who Zara was. He didn't know about her family's real estate empire or her personal investment portfolio. He just saw a beautiful woman with a warm laugh. They talked for hours that night, about dreams, about struggles, about life. Zara told him she worked in marketing for a small firm. She said she lived in a modest apartment across town. She didn't mention the penthouse. She didn't mention the driver. She didn't mention the multiple properties. And Leo believed her. Why wouldn't he? She seemed genuine, sweet, real. They exchanged numbers that night, and Zara drove home in her luxury car, her heart beating fast. She felt something she hadn't felt in years, hope. But with that hope came fear, the same old fear. What if he's like the others? What if he's just better at hiding it? The test started small. After their third date, Zara called Leo crying. "My car broke down," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm stranded and I don't have money for a tow truck until next week." It was all a lie. Her car was perfectly fine, parked in her private garage, but she needed to see what Leo would do. It was late, almost 11 at night. Leo had just gotten home from a long day at work. She could hear the exhaustion in his voice, but he didn't hesitate. "Send me your location, I'm coming." 30 minutes later, Leo pulled up in his old Honda. He looked tired. His shirt was wrinkled, but his eyes were kind. "You okay?" he asked. Zara nodded, playing her part. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know who else to call." Leo smiled. "Don't be sorry, that's what I'm here for." He looked at her car, which Zara had strategically parked in a dark area. "Let me call my guy. He owes me a favor. We'll get this sorted." Zara watched him make the call, watched him negotiate, watched him care. And when his friend quoted a price, Leo pulled out his own money without hesitation. "No, no," Zara protested. "I can't let you pay." But Leo insisted. "You can pay me back whenever. It's not a big deal." Zara felt two things at once: warmth, because he had passed the test, and guilt, because she was testing him at all. The second test came 2 weeks later. Zara and Leo were having dinner when she casually mentioned another man. "So there's this guy at work," she said, watching Leo's face carefully. "He's been asking me out. Like a lot. He's persistent." She waited for Leo's reaction. Would he get angry? Jealous? Possessive? But Leo just nodded calmly. "What did you tell him?" he asked. Zara shrugged. "I told him I'm seeing someone, but he said if I'm not married, I'm still available." She was pushing, testing, waiting for Leo to explode. But he didn't. Instead, Leo reached across the table and held her hand. "Zara," he said softly, "I trust you. I can't control what other men do. I can only control what I do. And what I do is choose to trust you until you give me a reason not to." Zara felt her heart squeeze. That was the perfect answer. The mature answer. The answer she wanted. But Maya's voice echoed in her head later that night. "He's too calm, Zara. Maybe he doesn't care enough. A man who really loves you would fight harder. Test him again. Deeper this time." So Zara did. The third test was cruel. She called Leo one evening, her voice breaking with fake tears. "Leo, I need to tell you something. I lost my job today. They let me go. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have rent due next week and I barely have enough savings." It was all lies. Zara's family wealth meant she would never have to work a day in her life if she didn't want to. But she needed to see what Leo would do when she had nothing to offer, and when she was a burden instead of a partner. Leo was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'm coming over." 20 minutes later, he was at her apartment, the modest one-bedroom she had rented specifically for this charade. He held her while she fake cried into his chest. Then he said something that almost made Zara stop the whole game. "Zara, listen to me. You're going to be okay. We're going to figure this out together. I've been saving up for something, but that can wait. I want to help you with rent this month, and we'll work on your resume together. You're talented. You'll find something better." Zara looked up at him. "Leo, I can't take your money. That's not fair to you." But Leo shook his head. "When you care about someone, their problems become your problems. I'm not rich, but I've got enough to make sure you don't stress this month. Let me do this." Zara wanted to break down and tell him the truth right there, that she didn't need his money, that this was all a test, that he had passed every single one with flying colors. But she didn't. Because doubt is a terrible thing. It whispers. It grows. It makes you do things you know are wrong but feel necessary. So instead of coming clean, Zara took his money. She watched him transfer his hard-earned savings into her account. Money he had probably been saving for months, and she felt like the worst person in the world. But she told herself it was for a good reason. She needed to be sure. Absolutely sure. Over the next few weeks, Zara watched Leo closely. He never complained about the money. He never threw it in her face during arguments. He never made her feel small. He just loved her. Patiently, kindly, consistently. But Zara couldn't stop. The tests continued. Smaller ones. Checking if he'd get jealous when she posted pictures with male friends. Seeing if he'd get angry when she canceled plans last minute. Watching if he'd pressure her for physical intimacy. Leo passed everything. But something was changing in him. Zara could see it. His smile didn't reach his eyes anymore. His responses were slower. He seemed tired. Not physically, emotionally, like he was running a race that never ended. Then came the final test, the one that broke everything. Zara told Leo that another man had proposed to her. A wealthy man from her supposed job, someone who could give her stability. She said she was confused, that she needed time to think. It was the cruelest test yet. And Zara knew it. But she had convinced herself it was necessary. She needed to see if Leo would fight for her. If he would prove that he wanted her more than anything. But Leo didn't fight. He didn't shout. He didn't beg. He just looked at her with the saddest eyes she had ever seen. Zara, he said quietly, I've given you everything I have. My time, my energy, my money, my heart. If that's not enough, then I don't know what else I can give you. His voice cracked slightly. But I can't keep proving myself to you over and over again. It feels like I'm in a courtroom and you're the judge, and I'm always one mistake away from losing you. That's not love. That's torture. Zara's heart stopped. She wanted to say something, to take it all back, but the words stuck in her throat. Leo stood up. I hope you find what you're looking for, Zara. I really do. But I can't be the one trying to convince you I'm real anymore. I'm exhausted. And then he left. Just walked out of her apartment. Out of her life. The door closed behind him and Zara sat there in complete silence. And that silence was the loudest sound she had ever heard. For 3 days, Zara couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't think about anything except Leo's face when he walked away. She kept replaying his words. That's not love. That's torture. He was right. She had tortured him. Tortured a good man because she was afraid. Because she had been hurt before. And decided everyone else would hurt her too. Maya called her, but Zara didn't want to hear her friend's voice. Not anymore. On the 4th day, Zara did something she hadn't done in months. She looked at herself in the mirror. Really looked. And she didn't like what she saw. A woman who had become so obsessed with protecting her heart that she had turned it into stone. A woman who confused control with safety. A woman who tested love until she killed it. She thought about every test, every lie, every manipulation, and she realized something that broke her all over again. Leo had never asked her for anything. He had only given. And she had taken and questioned and doubted and tested until there was nothing left of him to give. That's when Zara made a decision. She was going to find Leo. She was going to tell him the truth. All of it. The money. The tests. The lies. Everything. And she was going to apologize. Not because she wanted him back, but because he deserved to know that he had been right all along. He had been real. She was the one who wasn't. And it took her 2 days to find the courage. When she finally knocked on Leo's door, her hands were shaking. Leo opened it, surprise crossing his face. He looked different. Tired. Sad. But still him. Zara? He said. She took a deep breath. Leo, I need to talk to you. Can I come in? He hesitated, then stepped aside. They sat in his small living room, an awkward distance between them. Zara didn't waste time. I lied to you, she began, about everything. I'm not a struggling marketing associate. I'm rich. Very rich. My family owns half the real estate in this city. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Leo's eyes widened, but he stayed quiet. Zara continued, tears streaming down her face now. The car breaking down was fake. Me losing my job was fake. The other man proposing was fake. All of it. I was testing you, Leo. Because I've been hurt before and I was terrified you would hurt me too. She wiped her face with shaking hands. But you didn't. You passed every test. You were patient and kind and real. And I repaid you by treating you like you were guilty of crimes you never committed. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Leo spoke, his voice low and controlled. You knew I was struggling to save money, and you watched me give you my savings anyway? Zara nodded, shame flooding through her. I'm so sorry. Leo stood up, pacing now. Do you know how that feels, Zara? I worked overtime for 3 months to save that money. I was planning to fix my mom's roof. She's been complaining about leaks for a year, but I gave it to you because I thought you needed it more, because I cared about you. And it was all a game? Zara sobbed. It wasn't a game, and I was just scared. Leo stopped pacing and looked at her. Being scared doesn't give you the right to play with people's hearts, Zara. You tested my loyalty while being disloyal yourself. You tested my honesty while lying to my face. You tested my love while showing me control. The truth of his words hit Zara like a physical blow, but then Leo's expression softened slightly. But I need to tell you something too. Zara looked up, confused. Leo sat back down, running his hands through his hair. I knew you were rich, Zara. I knew from the beginning. Zara felt the world tilt. What? Leo nodded slowly. I saw your driver drop you off once, early on, before you noticed me. I recognized your last name because my company tried to pitch to your family's firm last year. I knew who you were. Zara couldn't breathe. Then why did you pretend? Leo looked away. Because part of me wanted to prove something. That a rich girl couldn't control me with her money. That I could be the one in charge for once in a relationship. I stayed because my ego wanted to win. The honesty was devastating. They had both been playing games. Both been dishonest. Both been protecting themselves at the other's expense. But then Leo looked back at her and said, but somewhere along the way, it stopped being about my ego. I actually fell in love with you, Zara. The real you. Or at least, the parts of the real you that you let me see. And that's why the tests hurt so much. Because I was actually trying, and it felt like nothing I did was ever going to be enough for you. Zara reached for his hand. I'm sorry, Leo. I'm so sorry. I know I don't deserve another chance. But if you could find it in your heart to try again, I promise you this. No more tests, no more lies, no more games. Just me, the real me, and I'll trust you. Actually, trust you. Leo looked at their joined hands for a long time. Then slowly, he nodded. One more chance, Zara. But this is it. If you test me again, I'm gone for good. Zara nodded, relief flooding through her. I promise. You'll never have to prove yourself to me again. And for the first time in weeks, they both smiled. They spent the next month rebuilding. Zara showed Leo her real world, her penthouse, her cars, her lifestyle. She introduced him to her family. She paid him back the money he had given her, plus more for his mother's roof. She was open, honest, vulnerable. Everything she should have been from the start. And it felt good. It felt like freedom. But something strange started happening. The more real Zara became, the more distant Leo seemed. At first, she thought she was imagining it, but then the signs became obvious. He started staying out late without explanation. His phone was always face down now. He became secretive about where he was going and who he was with. When Zara asked, he would smile and say, "Don't you trust me?" And because she had promised to trust him, because she felt guilty about all her previous tests, Zara would nod and let it go. But her gut knew something was wrong. One night, Leo's phone buzzed on the table while he was in the shower. Zara tried to ignore it. She had promised no more suspicion, no more control. But the screen lit up with a preview. "I missed last night. When can I see you again?" The sender's name was just a heart emoji. Zara's blood went cold. Her hands shook as she picked up the phone. She knew his passcode. He had given it to her freely, another sign of his supposed openness. She unlocked it and scrolled through messages. Her heart broke with every line she read. Flirty texts, plans to meet, hotel addresses, photos that weren't meant for her eyes. Leo was cheating. The man she had finally learned to trust. The man she had opened her whole heart to. The man she had stopped testing because she believed he was real. He was cheating. When Leo came out of the shower, Zara was sitting on the bed, his phone in her hand, tears streaming silently down her face. He stopped when he saw her. "Zara." She cut him off. "Don't." Her voice was eerily calm. "Just don't." Leo ran his hand through his wet hair. He didn't look guilty. He looked annoyed. Like she had discovered something she wasn't supposed to find, but he wasn't particularly sorry about it. "It's not what you think," he started. Zara laughed, a bitter sound. "It never is it?" They stared at each other across the room. Then Zara asked the question burning in her chest. "Why, Leo? Why now? When I finally became real with you, when I finally trusted you, when I finally stopped testing, why did you do this?" Leo was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that shattered her completely. "You didn't trust me when I was loyal, Zara. So why should I stay loyal now that I have options?" The cruelty in those words made Zara physically step back. "What does that even mean?" she whispered. Leo sat down on the chair across from her. "It means that when I was being real with you, you treated me like a suspect. You tested me. You doubted me. You made me jump through hoops. And now that you've finally decided to trust me, now that you're showing me this comfortable life, this access, this world, you expect me to just be grateful?" He shook his head. "It doesn't work like that." Zara's voice rose. "So this is punishment? You're punishing me for growing, for changing, for becoming better?" Leo stood up now, his voice rising to match hers. "No, Zara, I'm not punishing you. I'm just done performing. When you were testing me, at least I felt like I was winning something. Like I was proving something. But now you just trust me blindly. Where's the challenge in that? Where's the victory?" Zara stared at him like she was seeing a stranger. "So you didn't want love. You wanted conquest." Leo didn't deny it. "Maybe I did. Maybe after being with someone who had all the power, I wanted to feel like I had some too." Zara felt something inside her break, and then harden. She stood up slowly, wiping her tears. When she spoke, her voice was steady and cold. "Let me tell you what just happened here, Leo. I tested you because I was broken. I was afraid. I was protecting a heart that had been shattered too many times. That was wrong. I own that. I worked on myself. I faced my fear. I chose to trust again. I fixed what was broken in me." She took a step toward him. "But you? You didn't cheat because I was bad to you. You didn't cheat because I tested you. You cheated because the moment I stopped testing you, the moment you didn't have to fight for me anymore, you got bored. You didn't want love, Leo. You wanted the chase. You wanted the power. And the second you felt secure, you became the very thing I was afraid of all along." Leo opened his mouth to respond, but Zara held up her hand. "I learned trust, Leo. Real trust. The kind that's vulnerable and scary and brave. But you learned betrayal. You learn that loyalty is only worth it when someone's watching, when someone's testing, when someone's doubting. You proved that the moment love feels safe, you'll destroy it just to feel powerful again. She picked up her bag and walked toward the door. Leo called after her. Zara, wait, we can talk about this. But Zara turned around one last time. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice, and I'm making mine. I'm choosing me. The real me. The healed me. The me that deserves someone who doesn't punish growth. And she walked out. This time, she was the one closing the door, and she didn't look back. The weeks that followed were hard. Zara cried. She grieved. Not just for Leo, but for the relationship she thought they could have had. For the hope she had allowed herself to feel. But she also did something different this time. She didn't build her walls back up. She didn't decide all men were trash. She didn't let Leo's betrayal turn her back into the fearful, testing version of herself. Instead, she went to therapy. She worked through her trust issues properly. She learned that her fear of being used for her money was valid, but her response to it, the constant testing, had been harmful. She learned that real love requires risk, that you can't protect yourself from heartbreak by controlling everything, that sometimes people will hurt you, and it won't be your fault. She learned to forgive herself for the mistakes she made with Leo. And surprisingly, she learned to forgive Leo too. Not because what he did was okay, but because holding on to anger was only hurting her. 3 months later, Zara ran into Leo at a mutual friend's event. He looked different. Smaller somehow. He approached her carefully. Zara, can we talk? She nodded, and they stepped outside. Leo took a deep breath. I'm sorry. For everything. You were right. About all of it. I did want power more than love. And the moment I had it, I didn't know what to do with it except abuse it. Zara listened quietly. Leo continued. After you left, I tried to go back to that other girl, the one I was cheating with. But it didn't mean anything. It never did. I realized I didn't actually want her. I just wanted to feel like I was in control. Like I was the one choosing for once. He looked at Zara with regret in his eyes. I messed up the best thing that ever happened to me because my ego was bigger than my heart. Zara felt a familiar ache in her chest. A part of her wanted to comfort him, to tell him it was okay. But she had learned better. Leo, I appreciate your apology, I really do, and I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You taught me something important. Some people don't want love. They want proof that they can't be abandoned. And once they feel secure, they become the danger. Leo nodded slowly, tears in his eyes now. I know. I get it. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that I'm working on myself now. Therapy. All of it. Trying to figure out why I'm like this. Zara smiled sadly. I'm proud of you for that, Leo. I really am. I hope you become the man you're supposed to be. But that journey isn't mine to take with you anymore. They stood there for a moment. Two people who had hurt each other in different ways, both learning hard lessons about love and fear and ego and trust. Then Zara said something that surprised even herself. You know what's funny? I spent so much time testing you to see if you were real. And in the end, the realest thing about our relationship was the pain. We were both performing, Leo. Both protecting ourselves. Both too broken to actually love each other properly. Leo nodded. Yeah, we were. Zara took a deep breath of the cool night air. But I'm not broken anymore. And I hope one day you won't be either. She gave him one last look, not with anger or longing, but with genuine hope for his healing. Then she walked back inside, not to avoid him, but because she had nothing left to say. A few months later, Zara met someone new. She didn't hide her wealth this time. She didn't test him. She didn't pretend to be someone she wasn't. She was just herself. fully, honestly, vulnerably. And when her new partner asked her one day, "Have you ever been hurt in love before?" Zara smiled and said, "Yes, more than once. But I learned that pain is a teacher, not a reason to stop trying." She thought about Leo sometimes, hoped he was doing better, hoped he had learned his lesson the way she had learned hers. But mostly, she thought about herself, about how far she had come, about how she had faced her deepest fear, been betrayed anyway, and still chose to keep her heart open. That was the real victory. Not finding someone who passed all her tests, but becoming someone who didn't need to test anymore. Someone who understood that real love isn't proven through trials, it's built through trust. And trust isn't about being certain you won't get hurt. It's about being brave enough to risk it anyway. Zara looked at her reflection one evening, getting ready for a date with her new partner. She saw a woman who had been broken, who had broken someone else, who had been broken again, but who had chosen, again and again, to heal, to grow, to try. And that woman, she realized, was someone she could finally be proud of. Not because she was rich, not because she was beautiful, but because she was real. Finally, truly real. And that was worth more than any test could ever measure.